What does it mean to feel old? Is it our bodies that feel old? Our minds? Is it both? Why do we feel physically old, but we don't think of ourselves as old people? Join me today as I talk briefly about this internal conflict many of us experience and the answer to it that made sense and brought me comfort. Thank you for joining me here today for another episode of All Is Not Lost. I love having you here.
Spirit. Does it stay? Does it go?
The fact is, spirit does survive death. Our loved ones are all around us. Love survives. Spirit survives. All is not lost.
Welcome to the All Is Not Lost podcast. Here's your host, psychic and evidential medium, Rianne Maldonado.
I'm not sure what day this episode is actually going to publish, but the day of recording is Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. And I want to chronicle that because I live in Tucson, Arizona, where it's hot, like beyond hot, 9 months out of the year. And I don't like the hot, but I love living in Tucson, surprisingly. Yet today we have beautiful, beautiful snow everywhere. And I don't mean just a little dusting that melts the minute it hits the ground. I mean snow that reminds me of living in Idaho and Washington State. It's absolutely gorgeous. When I drove my kids to school this morning, I had to pull over at the base of the mountains and take a ton of pictures. It felt so good to just have a different perspective this morning, kind of wake up to a surprise and something completely unexpected and different. I mean, when the news said it was going to snow yesterday, nobody believed. So when I say unexpected, it's just because we don't expect snow this low down in Tucson, Arizona. So I just kind of want to thank Spirit for the day. And I want to chronicle that today was such a special, different, beautiful morning. When I took the kids to school, the principal and teachers were letting them play outside and make snowballs and just something you would never normally see in Tucson. So as I sit here at my microphone, I'm looking out the window and I live a little bit farther from the mountain where the kids go to school. So there's less snow, but it's still really special to look out the window and see the wash, which is usually full of desert scrub, blanketed in beautiful white snow and snow on the cars. And I understand people who live in other areas that have snow all the time maybe can't see the beauty. I do remember the long, long winters in Idaho and Spokane, Washington. So I understand that. But having lived almost 7 years in the desert, it's a really nice surprise. So anyway, that said, I'm going to get on with today's episode. Today, I woke up and I really just wanted to talk about something that I've thought about almost my entire life. Just kind of in the background, not like always on my mind, but I don't know. Have you ever heard an older person say, I just don't feel old? Like they might say, my body can't do all the things it used to do, but I just don't feel old. I remember hearing my grandparents say that, but as time went on, I remember my dad saying it. And I thought it was interesting because my dad wasn't that old, when I was middle school, high school. He wasn't old at all, but I remember him getting frustrated because he couldn't do some things that maybe he was able to do before. And he would say how weird it was because he just didn't feel old inside. So across the board, this seems to be a very common feeling. As we age and we're unable to do things we're used to doing, we get frustrated because in our minds, we're the exact same. And to us, there seems to be no reason for this. This concept, like I said, was something that was on my mind often. As I would hear other people say it when I was young, I would ponder it and think about it over the years, which I then began noticing it was pretty common, a common complaint. In the fall of, I think it was 2018, I had the opportunity to attend a psychic development workshop in Virginia Beach at the Edgar Cayce Institute, where I went there to see one of my favorite mediumship teachers at the time. But while I was there, I got to learn from a few other teachers that were new to me. The late Reverend Janet Nohavec was one of those teachers. Janet stood out to me for so many reasons. I was a bit intimidated by her, probably because I was in awe of her. The way she demonstrated and taught mediumship was impeccable. On one of the breaks from class, I went to the bookstore on campus and purchased both of her books, as she was going to be holding a book signing that evening. And if you know anything about me at all, you won't be surprised to know that I was first in line. Janet signed my books and we chit-chatted for just a moment, and then some of us went to dinner and called it an early night as we had flights out the next day. But I had made sure my flight was a little later because I really wanted some alone time before I went home. Being alone is just how I replenish myself. So I walked down to the beach and I brought one of Janet's books. I was instantly, completely immersed. I didn't want to put the book down. It was just a fabulous story. But imagine me reclining lazily on a bench on the beach, just reading peacefully, when all of a sudden I sat straight up and said, "Oh my God, that's it." Janet was the first person I'd ever seen that tackled the concept of physically aging, but not feeling old. And she gave an explanation, a brilliant one. I've since adopted Janet's explanation, and I feel it in my bones as the truth. Our souls, our spirits, know no time. They are not constricted by days, months, years. They just exist. There's no beginning and no end. So how can we be aging? How can our souls be getting older? Our bodies age, but our souls do not. And that is why as our bodies begin to age and deteriorate, our souls get frustrated. There's this disconnect on how we feel and perceive our physical changes and how we think of ourselves mentally. I hope that you can see a new way of thinking about getting old and this disconnect, if you've heard people say it or you yourself are feeling it. Imagine that just because your body is changing and you can't stop the aging process, you might delay it, taking care of yourself, eating well, resting, staying happy and hydrated, and all of those things that we know we're supposed to do, of course, will prolong the quality of our physical life with our bodies. But think about your soul, your spirit inside. I like to think of it this way. When I see my teenage daughters doing something goofy or silly, and I perceive that they might be looking at me like I'm old or I don't understand, inside my mind, it feels like just yesterday that I was doing the same silly, goofy teenage things. I don't feel all these years older. I still feel inside like I'm capable of keeping up with them, or I'm still funny and silly like they are. I don't feel like just because chronologically I'm a certain age that I'm actually that age. So what does this mean? I don't know. It could mean something different to everybody, or it might mean nothing to you. I don't know. But to me, I think it means that I want to keep honoring my soul, my mind, that part of me that is forever young, that part of me that wants to learn and expand and grow and try new things and not be limited or hindered by my body. I know there are times that we are. I know there are ways in which our body can keep us held back just a little bit, but it doesn't restrict our mind unless we let it, unless we allow those restrictions to restrict our mind as well. So think about your soul having no age, no beginning, no end. It's not aging. It's not getting old. It's just getting better. It's learning, growing, gaining experiences, trying new things. That seems to be a theme for me lately, is living this expanded life, trying all the things that Spirit has to offer while we're on this planet. I think this goes hand in hand with that. How can we keep our minds young? They're already going to stay in this mindset if we allow it, but how can we assist? How can we keep our minds young, our souls young? So whatever interests you or whatever you think might interest you, why don't you give it a try? That inner child, maybe that's what people talk about as their inner child, that part of us also that stays young. What can you do to nurture that person, that part of you that isn't going to age, that can do anything, think anything, feel anything? even if you're hurting today physically, maybe you're sick, maybe you have an injury and you can't go out and play in the snow or do something you wish you could do. But how can you expand your mind and still give back to yourself and still honor your soul and the journey that it's on? You've heard me talk before about my ministry and that I'm working towards my being ordained as a spiritualist minister, which was actually scheduled for next month, April of 2023, but has been pushed until June. And I'm trying not to be too sad about that. But when we talk in spiritualism, there's these 7 principles that we follow. And this talk today reminds me so much of our 7th principle, the eternal progress open to every human soul, that we can grow. It's never limited, whether we're growing on this side or as we're growing spiritually on the next side. We are expected to grow, to try, to learn, to be better all the time, whether it's here while we're on earth or when we cross over to the other side, or if you believe in reincarnation and you've lived previous lives or you're going to live other lives. That soul that is you, that makes your personality, is open to progress, to making progress, to doing new things. So maybe take a few minutes to think about how you feel physically, but then also how you feel mentally. Age-wise, is there a disconnect or is it kind of connected for you? I think some of us tend to tell ourselves, oh, we're getting old, so we need to do these things that older people do, or we need to stop doing these things because younger people do them. Sure, of course, there's some that really fit that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I think if we can tell ourselves, I'm not getting old, or what does old mean? I'm still me. My personality is still mine. I can do pretty much whatever it is I think I can do, what I believe I can do, which compounds into my parapsychology experiences, that mind over matter, we can do whatever we believe we can do. And that is a fact. I mean, that's scientifically proven. So if you, in your soul, in your mind, believe you're young and spry and that you can do things, then you're going to be able to do them. So I don't know, that's just my take on something that I was thinking of for a really long time. And then when I read Janet's book and saw her explanation, it just hit home. It hit home that that's why there's this disconnect. Our souls do not age. Just because you're a young child or, a toddler and you don't have the vocabulary or the information or experiences to share what you're thinking and feeling, you're still that soul in there that has maybe potentially lived other lives, or that has been expanding while in heaven or wherever it is that we reside and wait to be born. I don't know. I don't claim to know all the answers. But just because we wouldn't have the vocabulary to discuss it doesn't mean that we're not there and cognizant and aware. You take that little soul and you keep molding and expanding and adding to it over the entire period of your life. And it doesn't just end one day. It doesn't just go away. It doesn't just become old. It keeps going. And that's why mediumship is amazing, because that soul that disconnected from the body, that deteriorated, didn't die, didn't leave, didn't disappear. It's still there. And that, my friends, is why we can still connect with our loved ones in spirit. So I kind of went off on a tangent there because I'm excited about all of this stuff. But next time you feel old, I want you to check in with yourself. Is it your mind or is it your body? Because you might be able to make some subtle changes that are going to make big impact on how you really feel or think about where you are in life spiritually, your spirit, your soul versus your body. And can you bring them into some sort of alignment? Or if you are limited by something with your body, how can you keep your mind young? I don't know. Reach out to me and let me know your thoughts. I'm really curious. Or also, if you have found this explanation has helped you in some way, I'd love to hear that too. Because I know that I'm not the only one that had this thought over my life. So yeah, how can you keep your spirit young? How can you keep your body and spirit in alignment in a way that feeds your soul. I hope today's episode gave you a little something to think about, or maybe gave you an answer to a question you've been asking as well. I can't believe I neglected to mention that it's because of the late Reverend Janet that I am on my journey to ministry. Her books were my first introduction to spiritualism and how I fell in love with it. Janet's church, The Journey Within in New Jersey, is where I will receive my ordination, and I couldn't be more proud. Janet passed last year unexpectedly after heart surgery, and she is greatly missed. Had I not met Janet that fall and read her books, I would not be on the path of becoming a minister. Thank you so much, Janet. And I thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm always so appreciative. I know you have a choice of how you spend your time, and it's not lost on me that you choose to spend your time here. If you're enjoying the show, please remember to click follow and to share it with a friend. If you'd like more information about me or to book a reading or private mentoring session, please visit allisnotlostpodcast.com and click booking and inquiries. If you have an idea for a show topic or you just want to connect, please reach out on social media or via email at allisnotlostpodcast@gmail.com. I will put links to Janet's books on Amazon in the show notes. And thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.